Hey guys, Rich here. A couple of the mods I've done to my 8290 machines for the pin feed issues, because with this back end pinwheel setup, I'm sure other people have experienced this, you always will get play in the pinwheel. I noticed that even putting on the new rollers, they make a green Enviro pinwheel rollers. They've been out for a while now, and those definitely work better than them. But the problem is with those is they're expensive, and unfortunately the center I work for, they really don't like to buy them, unfortunately. Otherwise, maybe if I had a say in that, it would be different. But anyway, no matter what, you know, you always have, I noticed it was always, because of the vibration on the pinwheel, you always get a pin that goes up a little funny. You know, so a couple little mods we did here was I cut about a little more, about 3 inches out of the O-pan, because what that does is when the pins feed and they ride up, you know, the belt pretty much grabs them immediately. But you have to watch when you do that now, because you really may have to put the kidney up a little bit. Like this one, it's all the way down, but I had other lanes I had to put the kidney up pretty high to get them so they don't go in inverted. But once you play around with it, I mean, they feed really well. Also, I run a 5-inch pulley on my pinwheels. We got pretty much 90% of the house done. I have a few of them that are still pretty fast, but not all of them. Most of them are slowed down. Couple lanes, the kidneys, you know, we've actually cut the edges off of them just a little bit, just to get a little bit more adjustment here. You know, I've seen a couple where people have elongated the holes here to get the kidney down more. That works pretty well too. But the biggest thing is this, the cutout O-pan and the slow pinwheel. Another thing that we've done on a lot of machines, well, this is actually more of an install issue. The reason why we've done this is all depends on where your back end is. You see, this one is about 1 inch back, the distributor. You got about 1 inch gap here between them, and that's where pretty much they should be. Now, I have a few machines that are a little bit further back than that, so I couldn't do this. You see, what we did here was we took the front flippers off here, because what it does is it gives you, basically when the pin drops off, you don't have that. It gets rid of this. You know, I've noticed some machines, they go like that. You know, it's less wear and tear on the bin, I think, and at the end of the day, it lays the pins down flatter by taking these off. But you got to remember, the back end of the machine, always look at how much gap you have here, because it's a little bit further back, you don't need to do that, because it's going to already do that. So it all really depends on how far your back ends are, how they're installed. The other thing I've done is we put, well, I'm sure a lot of you do this, one washer underneath the flipper here and one here. The reason why is because when you press down now, it basically kind of doesn't go down as far. So I feel that when you do that, it actually lays the pins down flatter. So now with getting rid of these two front flippers here, putting a washer here and a washer back there, the pin's gonna lay down flat instead of going like that. It's gonna, you know, the pins are gonna feed, they're gonna lay down much smoother. I think you get a much smoother, pins lay down much flatter and smoother when you do that. But like I said, that all determines on where the back end is. This was actually something I did because I had machines that the back ends were, the distributors are pretty close to here, and we were having a lot of problems because of that, because of where the back ends were. So that's where that idea came from. Another thing that I do is, if you look over here, I'll go on another machine that has it over here, the next lane. If you look over here, the spring for the trip rod, the trip lever, is supposed to be up against here. If you look down, you really can't see it that good, but it's actually, the spring is actually down here. It's not resting on here anymore. So you don't have so much spring tension on the flipper, so it's a little bit more free. And you know, I believe that, you know, you see that? It helps the pins feed off the end of the distributor a little smoother. And that also depends on how good your belt is too. You know, if you have a real grippy belt, you may not have as much of a problem. But I just always liked the hose clamp doing this because I feel that no matter what, the pins will always feed off the end of the distributor better. It also depends on how much you have it offset this way or this way. So there's a lot of variables to it. And another thing we do is not just with the cut O-pan, we put a pin seating rod on the kidney. You know, you see, you want to get it basically as close to the O-pan as possible without it coming over and hitting it, and without the pinwheel hitting it. So you probably want to go, usually, you see the bolt right there? You probably want to go like a little bit further, probably around, align it up with that bolt and give it about an inch gap. Just mark it, play around with it, and get it to where to make sure the teeth clear it. Because you don't want the thing offset like this, you want it straight up like that. And basically when the pins feed butt first, they start turning automatically, so it doesn't have to rely on having to turn so quickly here. It's already starting to turn. And when they feed head first, they seat in the pinwheel better, so what they do is by the time they get over on the O-pan, they kind of flip really quick. And with the O-pan being cut out like that, and that being on there, and the pinwheel slowed down, I mean, you really gets rid of all the pin feed issues on this setup, you know, because of the pinwheels. I mean, look at this one. It's got a little bit of play in it, and these rollers on this one aren't even that old. You know, I mean, you probably could, you know, I would personally put the green Enviro pinwheel rollers on here. But yeah, so those are some of the mods that I've done here on our machines. Another thing I like to do, I think it helps with, because, you know, no matter what, I think the distributor, when it goes from the 1, 3 to the 2, you know, there's always going to be a little, even if they, you know, it may not sway, but I think this keeps the distributor from swaying at all. Just putting, it helps by putting that extra spring on there. I personally just like having them on there, you know. You know, I mean, obviously if the thing's still swaying with the spring on there, I mean, there's something definitely wrong, and, you know. But anyway, those are a lot of the, those are pretty much the mods, the little mods that I've done, we've done to our distributors here. Now, we didn't do every lane. Really, a lot of this is just from really the way the back ends of the machines were installed to compensate for certain things like that. But I mean, turns out it actually does eliminate a lot of pin feed issues. I mean, I'm gonna cycle right now. That pin there. But anyway, yeah, that's those are some of my little distributor mods here. Another thing, you know, this is obviously, you know, I mean, I have some machines here that, I guess, because, like I said, because of how they were installed, the gap here, they're further back. So you just have to watch that, because if this distributor or your machines you have are like any more, you see how I can stick my finger in there like that? You have one maybe that you can stick 2 fingers in like this, or it's further back than this, about an inch. If it's more than an inch back, then I wouldn't recommend doing that. because then the pins actually may catch on the butt plates. Really, you only have to worry about that on the 9 and the 8, but it can happen. You know, you could always raise the distributor up a little bit. Yes, anyway, these are some of the things, and I can tell you right now, I really don't have any more pin feed issues here anymore after we did this stuff. You know, I have no complaints. You know, these machines, they've been running really well. Yeah, so any questions, just let me know. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video.